On this week's episode, is Valorant the next Fortnite? Some interesting nods for the Emmys. And is it time to adopt me? All this and more as we reach our next stop, the PCC Multiverse.
Don't be alarmed. The quasi-shimmering light before you is a trans-dimensional gateway to other worlds, other voices, other thoughts, and other realities. Up feels like down, and down feels like the number 7 on a Wednesday morning. Don't worry. That quivering, blood-boiling sensation under your eyebrows is all a part of the charm. Welcome to the PCC Multiverse.
And we're back for another episode of the PCC Multiverse. This is Gerald Glasser from Pop Culture Cosmos, Game Source, Inside Sports Fantasy Football, and the Lakers Fast Break. We truly appreciate everyone out there listening to all of our great shows, and if you can, give us that 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. You can also send us stars and wherever we're Facebook gaming out there in the Facebook gaming world and streaming and all that, like right now. But also as well, if you like, share, follow, whatever you do to help us out and support what we do here at the Pop Culture Cosmos, it is truly appreciated. But it wouldn't be a PCC Multiverse without my good friend. He's our own future Emmy nominee of Pop Culture Cosmos. You gotta check out what he's doing today at popculturecosmos.com. His great shows, Topicocalypse and the Super BS Gamescast. Plus, you can also grab his book at any point in time, whether it's downloading on the Kindle or the Nook. You can go ahead and order the hardcover as well on Amazon.com and Barnes & Noble. It is my good friend. It is Josh Peterson. What's up, man?
What's going on, man? It's just another beautiful day here in Lorena, Texas. And so I know a while back, I just want to rabbit trail for a minute. I know a while back we talked about whether or not The Last Christmas was going to be a decent Christmas movie. It wasn't. It wasn't.
Did it serve the memory of George Michael well?
Well, I don't know if it served the memory of George Michael or if it just didn't have any other music to play besides George Michael. I mean, you kind of take your pick, but it was a very frustrating movie. And well, so she gets in this car accident, or not car accident. I don't actually know what happened to her, but she meets this guy. You know, you find out she's got a heart transplant. She meets this guy, the guy from Crazy Rich Asians. He's
Henry
also
Golding.
The Gentleman. Henry Golding, very good actor, by the way.
He is. He's got superstardom written all over him.
Yeah, so that happens, and she meets him, and this guy is like unreliable, but he like teaches her to be a better version of herself. And they're weaving this romance tale. Can I spoil it? Is that okay? Can I spoil the movie?
It's not Christmas. Go for it. Okay,
so you find out that this guy was the one that gave her her heart. And so he was, it's very, I guess they're trying to be very metaphorical, but like she has his heart in her chest, like literally.
How is he alive?
He wasn't. She's like hallucinating the whole thing.
Oh, so it's Fight Club, but we can't talk about Fight Club.
Basically. Anyways, it was, I don't know. I had a problem with it. It wasn't my favorite. And I see they're trying to kind of like be very clever, and like it felt like they had like a Notting Hill / Love Actually vibe to it. I don't really think it worked very well, but that's my rant for today. What's up, man? How you doing?
I'm doing well. That's why it didn't do so well overall in the theaters, my friend. Pretty much that's how I think it went. So, you know what? Hey, it'd still be one of those films that you're going to see every last Christmas. But we're going to have a great episode coming up for you today. We're going to be talking about a lot of different things around the pop culture spectrum. And I want to also give a shout out to everyone out there that's catching us now on all the different Facebook streaming groups that are out there. We cannot thank you enough for supporting us and watching us and checking out what we do. We truly appreciate it. We're going to be talking about Valorant. A lot of high-powered stuff going on there because it is one of the biggest openings for a free-to-play game ever. So we'll talk about that in a second, and we're going to see where we think it's going to end up as far as in the upper echelon of gaming? Is it going to be the next Fortnite? We're going to talk more about that coming up in a second. Universal and UMC had an agreement. They came to nice. They sat down at the dinner table, looking at each other all funky and all that and angry. But you know what? They finally put pen to paper and made an agreement, and it's kind of got a different feel to it going forward that Josh has talked about in the past. So I want to go ahead and touch on that also as well, because Josh has really touched on this subject a lot, and I want to go ahead and hear his thoughts on it, on this new agreement that Universal and UMC made. Plus, we're going to be talking a little bit about Crysis Remastered and Destroy All Humans. Those remasters came out recently. We want to talk about how good they are. Do we think that they deserve remasters? And is this going to set the thing forward where, as far as for the future for remasters continuously? Because we've been seeing a whole string of them. Are we going to continue to see it now and in the future for the next generation? Plus, Josh and I have thoughts on Crosscode and Sister Royale. We've both been playing these games, as far as Josh with Crosscode and me, Sister Royale, and we have some thoughts on that. Emmy nominations are out, and we're going to talk about some of the more high-profile Emmy-nominated shows that were out or that have been nominated. So we're going to talk about that as well. Witcher prequel is coming to Netflix eventually. After, what we're going to go ahead and see the success of, or what we've seen with the success of The Witcher, a prequel, i.e. more chunk of change for Netflix and more viewers are going to check out Blood Origin coming up here in 2021. So we'll share some thoughts on that. And last but not least, coming up on the back end of the show, Josh and I are thinking about AdoptMe. AdoptMe is a sub-game, but it's coming, it's branching out on its own, kind of, because it's getting so popular within the realm of Roblox. So we'll talk about that game coming up at the back end of the show as well. But my friend, it all starts off with Valorant. I want to hear your thoughts on Valorant. It is, again, like I said, since its official release, since it came out of beta in June 2nd, it's from Riot Games, one of the biggest makers out there of games that a lot of people, especially in Europe, in Asia, a lot of people know a lot of the great stuff that's out there for Valorant. It's a hybrid, from what I've been taking a lot of time to sit down and watch. It's kind of like a hybrid of Counter-Strike GO, Global Offensive, and Overwatch. And of course, it gives you ample opportunity to go ahead and buy those microtransactions. So it's making a ton of cash. And in fact, it's making so much cash in this age right now, or in this year, that year over year video game spending is up about 10%, actually 9%, but closing in on 10%. And you see it right there on the screen for everybody that's on Facebook Live. You see it right there in the number 6 position for PC spending. So I want to hear your thoughts, my friend. Could this end up being the next big game, i.e. Fortnite? Because Valorant is getting a lot of just good word out there, a lot of people getting into it, and I think it has at least a good starting point, being the biggest launch ever for a free-to-play game.
Yeah, sorry, I'm looking at pictures of it right now. It's got like an Overwatch animation style. It looks like it plays like Apex Legends. I'm looking at Wired's review of it, and they're saying that it's crazy addictive, punishing. It seems like it's kind of the, I don't know, Apex Legends, but more challenging, I guess would be the word. I don't know. Is it a battle royale game? I'm having a hard time finding information. Think
of it like Overwatch, and then with a lot of elements of Counter-Strike Global Offensive. I mean, I was taking a look at it. To me, it has that real feel of that, and with some elements of that battle royale type genre thrown in, because that is obviously at this point in time one of the most popular game genres. So yeah, I mean, when you get off to that kind of start, everybody has to take notice. And Riot Games, a lot of their games have been geared towards different markets outside of North America, but this is actually taking hold all over, and with one of the biggest launches ever for any type of game, whether it's free to play or paid, it's making a big impression going forward.
Yeah, so I guess like my big question would be like, what is the ranking system like? Because I remember the ranking system in like Halo 2 or any of the Halo games was crazy addicting, right? You're like, oh, I'm a sergeant now. I can decorate, I can get this piece of armor. Like, are you unlocking anything as you rank up, or do you have to pay for all this stuff? Like
Well,
I'm
you're doing a little bit of both, of course. I mean, there's a lot of
yeah.
grinding involved with all these free-to-play games, but there are a lot of enticements, whether it's cosmetic or otherwise. There's a lot of enticements to buy microtransactions, and Riot Games is making a ton of cha-ching off this, like we've seen already from other free-to-play games, i.e. Fortnite.
Yeah. Yeah, this is it looks interesting. I'd be willing to like keep following it to see if it maybe can knock some players is it going to remove players from like Apex and Fortnite and stuff like that? I think that's the big challenge to marketers of this type of property right now.
Well, I'm telling you right now, at least everybody's giving it an initial try, or at least a lot of people are. And you know the market that I think is giving it the try most, and I'm not going to say Counter-Strike Geo, because a lot of those Counter-Strike Geo players, they've been there a long time, so it's going to be really hard to get them off. It's the Overwatch crew. Because Overwatch is now, 3-4 years old now, getting a little bit up there in age as far as not being... It's still a modern game, of course, but it's not as modern as it once was, because we're getting into a new generation of gaming here with the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X. So there is an Overwatch 2 on the way, but Overwatch itself, the original, maybe people are starting to fly off there and go into different places. And one of the places they may go is Valorant. But like you said, with Apex Legends, Fortnite, the hardcore players for any of these games are going to stick with what they're seeing and playing every single day. But the fringe players, the casual players who are tired of getting their head handed to them every single game, they want to go ahead and try something new, and Valorant could be just it.
Yeah, I'm really interested in the ranking system though. I mean, like, if it creates a system where like you remember in Halo 2 how they would match you with people who you, or even Gears of War did this too, where they'd match with people of your skill level. I would hope that would be, that's what I consider a successful ranking system. So you're not like constantly being frustrated.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing. Riot Games has made enough games so that they understand how to go ahead and have that kind of outlying structure so that it will entice you to play just a little longer. Play just a little longer. Oh, you want to go ahead and buy something? Go spend right here. Spend some money here and there. But again, since it's a free-to-play game, it's not that bad as, say... Well, let's go NBA 2K. I love the NBA, but, the NBA 2K with the microtransactions and the fact that the next series of NBA 2K21 is going to require another $10 bump up if you're buying from PlayStation 4 to PlayStation 5. And, of course, already being a 2K has a lot of microtransactions in it already. But when you're a free-to-play game, I think... there's not on a game this large, you're not going to have a play-to-win scenario, because if you have a play-to-win scenario, you're selling the other millions of players short. So I think right now, the way they're structuring it, similar to what Fortnite does and some of these other success models of these free-to-play games, you're seeing them going ahead and having this kind of success because it's still fun for players that are just jumping in free, but also as well, it's a game that is very enticing to go ahead and spend a little bit of money here or there, and I don't mind that from a free-to-play game because it's free in the first place.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I'm honestly okay with microtransactions when it comes to free-to-play games. And
Yeah.
I think it's a risky business model, and if you are able to make money off of it and recoup your losses, then good for you. That's why I was saying, like, I don't necessarily dislike Fortnite. I don't necessarily dislike something like Sea of Thieves or even Apex Legends.
Or Call of Duty Warzone.
Or Call of Duty Warzone is very ingenuitous. I don't like when I pay $60 for a game and then I have to continue to pay more money in game to get certain things. And I don't, it's been a while since I played a game like that, but I have an issue with that.
Oh, I'm sure everybody else out there does. I mean, it's not cool at all when I'm asked to go ahead and slap $60 down, and then, you know what? I want to go ahead, in order to play the game to the fullest, you have to go ahead and buy these little add-ons here and there, and that I do not appreciate. I mean, if it's DLC or extra content, like we'll say Oblivion. Oblivion had those large extra DLCs where you didn't have to get it because the game itself was 100 hours long. But if you wanted the DLC, $10, $15, $20 to go ahead and spend on the extra, that's fine because they're extra adventures, hours and hours long. When it concerns a $60 game, and you're always asked as well to go ahead and not specifically be cosmetic. This is beyond cosmetic. This is a little bit more. This is actually affecting the gameplay and progression when it concerns some of these 2K games. That, to me, I have an issue with. So I can't say I blame you a bit.
I take up issue, and I don't know if I've talked to you about this. I know I've talked to Brank about this, but it's the fact that you're paying full price for a game that is essentially unfinished.
Absolutely.
And I know EA got themselves in some hot water for this a while back too. But Battlefront, yeah, that was a disaster. But yeah, it was. I admire this type of gaming, and I know it's tough. I know it's hard because look at the one that Amazon put out. I forget what it was called, but it's the only game in history to be put back into beta after having a full release.
Yep.
And that just goes to show that's the challenges. If a company like Amazon can't successfully release a game like that with all the money that they have backing them, then you have to admire somebody who does succeed at doing something like this.
Releasing it at the same or virtually the same exact time as that game from Amazon. Plus, also with Amazon, I think it's Brave New World or something like that. That game, which was going to come out, got delayed because of the failure of the first game. So, like you said, you see the business model being very risky for a free-to-play game, and if people are not ready to jump on, they're not going to jump on if they don't like the basic structure of and outline of the game itself. So you got to have something fun that people could get into, and Valorant looks like it can be just that. What are your thoughts out there on Valorant? Are you playing it? Are you into it? We want to hear your thoughts. It's one of the biggest free-to-play launch titles ever. And we want to know if you think it's going to be this time next year surpassing pretty much any game out there, including Fortnite. So I want to hear your thoughts on that. popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Also, Pop Culture Cosmos, Manica Media, and Game Source on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And of course, Pop Culture Cosmos on TikTok as well.
Hey, this is Chad from Ghost Toasters, and you're listening to Pop Culture Cosmos Podcast.
Hey Lakers fans! Looking for the best place to go for up-to-date news, information, original videos, articles, podcasts, opinion pieces, and discussions about the Los Angeles Lakers? Well, look no further than Lakerholics.com. With a legion of followers always there talking about everything Lakers and the NBA, there's no better place to go to share your fandom as the team heads toward another championship run. So stop by and be part of the conversation today at Lakerholics.com. My friend, there was a big news item this week. Universal and AMC, I said UMC right here in the notes, but it's actually Universal and AMC came to an agreement. They're made nice because you heard the threats. Oh, we'll never be able to Okay, we'll never play Universal again. Blah 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 blah. This came from the Trolls World Tour fallout because Trolls World Tour was put. It bypassed theaters. It was pulled out of going to be in the theater distribution. They pulled it out, and Universal said, you know what, we're going to go ahead and put it straight to VOD. It went via VOD, became a big hit in its own right through VOD. got AMC theaters all mad. They said they would never do business with Universal again. Well, they finally came to an agreement this week that said, you know what? After 17 days, I'm assuming it's going to be based on the picture. Because I don't think 17 days you're going to have the next Fast and Furious on there. But it may be an agreement that it's just straight 17 days and it hits VOD. But that's very interesting that pretty much 2.5 weeks in, Josh, all these Universal movies will be going straight to VOD. Or at least a good percentage of them.
It makes sense. You know, especially we've been talking a lot about the market, right? What's the theater market going to look like once all this stuff passes? What's the new landscape going to be for movie going? And it makes sense. You know, it makes sense that they would say, hey, you know, after, and this is not to necessarily say that they will in fact release something on VOD, but they have the ability to do it. You know, so if, say, COVID clears up and everyone goes back to the movie theaters, they can say, oh, hey, this movie's still in theaters. Maybe it's still doing really well. Maybe let's not release it on VOD. So maybe that's kind of what they're going for, just to have the option of doing it. There's not a lot of specifics in the the announcement, so I don't really know to include Fast and Furious, Jurassic Park, stuff like that. Because I know Jurassic World had a pretty long run in theaters and it continually made money every weekend. So I don't know how smart it would be. I think this is kind of a safety precaution, you know, on the off chance that movie going is just not safe anymore.
Absolutely. Or if you're having a underperforming movie title, even if you had a full audience going to it, so that you can put it on a premium pay demand. I'm going to read out of the Yahoo article real quick. I want to give them the correct credit on it. Financial terms of the agreement were not disclosed. However, in the statement, AMC CEO Adam Aron said the company will share in these new revenue streams. Universal only has the ability to put its movies on premium on demand, meaning the rentals that go for roughly $20 per, like we saw with Trolls World Tour. It cannot sell films or rent them for lower on demand fees. And then even though Universal under this new agreement could theoretically debut with the next Jurassic World or Fast and Furious within 17 days of their debut, they will no longer have exclusive runs in cinemas. Instead, the studio has the option to capitalize on its new freedom with mid-budget stuff, comedies, horror movies, things like that. So I have a feeling, again, that if it's a big hit, it's going to be waiting to go ahead on VOD. But if it's something that's not meeting expectations for one reason or another, that you could be seeing a lot sooner on VOD.
Yeah, and I think that's a safe thing for them to do, and I wouldn't be surprised if we saw other distributors follow suit. You know, I don't necessarily know if Disney would do it, but it's an interesting business model, and if it ends up working for them, then yeah, why not?
What are your thoughts out there on this agreement between Universal and AMC Theaters? It's going to be a big win for people out there that don't want to go back to theaters or are kind of waffling on seeing one movie or another. Want to hear your thoughts on hopefully a faster travel for movies to hit video on demand. Share us your thoughts, popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Still much to talk about in this show, my friend. I want to go ahead and talk to you a little bit about Crysis Remastered and Destroy All Humans. They both are coming out to different consoles. Crysis, as you know, when it got released, I think it was 2007, in that great, or actually I'm going to say the greatest year of gaming. You see a lot of it behind me right there with Mass Effect. I want to ask you this. Crysis was a game that almost broke PCs because it was just pushing the edge in 2007. It's now come out to a lot of great reviews being put on as small things as the Nintendo Switch. So I want to hear your thoughts. Does this renew your interest in Crysis, a game which was really pushing the limits and bounds of technology at that point in time, but it didn't sell as much as I think a lot of people had expected? But I want to hear your thoughts if Crysis Remastered might just do the trick this time around.
You know, so I have a complicated history with Crysis. You know, I always wanted to play this game growing up. You know, it was I had just finished Halo and I saw Crysis. I'm like, dang, that looks so much better than Halo does. Just looking at like how the color palettes, how shiny his armor was, and just reading stories in Game Informer about people who had 12 screens hooked up, and they got Crysis running on them. And so in this game, when Crysis 2 came out on Xbox 360, I could not wait to play it. Then I got it, and you get out there, like, the game looks great, yeah, but I mean, it is meant for PC.
It was meant for high-end PCs at that time.
For a high-end PC, but not just that, but I mean, not just in the way that it looks, but like in the gameplay. Like, you could tell with the the AI they use in the game that it is meant for people who have macros on their keyboards, people who can just press a button and then automatically flip around. It's like it's so fast-paced and so hard to play with a controller. And that really turned me off of Crysis for a while, because I was really stoked on it, and then I couldn't play it, even on the easy. I can't remember if you changed difficulty, but if you could, I probably played it on easy, and I still could not do very well at this game. So Crysis on Switch, I'm glad that it's getting really good reviews. My problem with shooters on Switch is that unless you're using the Pro controller, it is hard to play a shooter on Switch. Have you tried yet?
I have a shooter on Switch. It's kind of hard, like you said, without using the proper controller. But it's not impossible. I mean, it's just a little bit. Your reaction time, I think, is a little slower.
No, it's not impossible, but it's because on the Joy-Cons, because the joysticks are so small or so close to the Joy-Con itself, it is hard to get a good enough grip on that to continually, do your run and jumps and stuff like that. So, hearing that it's doing well on Switch is a surprise to me, and like, it honestly intrigues me. So maybe I will go back and play it. But I would love to see Crysis, become a Halo, become a, I don't want to say Resistance or Killzone, because those are not very good franchises at the moment.
But it ended up being that, because it never... it spawned sequels, but it just never really latched on with the audience. And plus, I think Crysis Remastered is also coming out for other platforms, or it has come out for other platforms as well.
So I mean, maybe this is what it needs, though, to kind of rejuvenate itself. Maybe it needs some strong mythology, or I don't know. But I mean, there has to be some people interested enough in it for it to merit a remaster, because this game is like, it's close to 10 years old, if not older.
So, it's older. It's 13.
Yeah, stoked to hear it. I mean, I'd be willing to give it a try. What about you? Is it something you'd consider picking up?
I was intimidated by it, to be honest with you, because I didn't have a high-end PC at that point in time, and like you said, playing it on any other system around that time, it was chugging. Frame rate down. It would eat systems. Anything else that was on outside of a high-end PC, if you had to have the video card up to date, you had to have a processor up to snuff, and if you didn't, it really wasn't a pleasant experience. So yeah, I think I'm going to go ahead and say, you know what, I'm ready to go ahead and get back into Crysis, because Crysis 2 came out and really didn't get over very well with audiences, and I think now is a good time to get into the Crysis game. Well, after, of course, you and I are both done playing the games we're going to talk about coming up here in a minute. But yeah, we're really getting into some Crysis Remastered, looking at it as something that on the back end of this console generation, it's kind of a nice thing to have coming back to us.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it might be something that the Switch, or not just the Switch, but other consoles too, can really use to show off what they're capable of. I mean, I'd be curious to know if it's going to get the upgrades that some of the other games are going to be getting when they release on Series X and PlayStation 5. But I'm interested enough to give it another try. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. I will definitely give it a look at and see if it's something that we can go ahead and hang with. The other game that got remastered with a little bit more high profile is Destroy All Humans. And even though it was a fairly successful game and a kind of a cult classic at the time, and something that got okay reviews, it's getting a lot better reviews because people are raving about how well this was translated and remastered for this generation. So I want to hear your thoughts on Destroy All Humans. A very quirky, a very funny, and a kind of a really cool and different kind of game. I played it back in the day. I enjoyed it. it had its flaws. And these flaws, some of it got rough, evened out and roughed out in as far as this remaster is concerned, but it looks really good, plays even better, and I think it's something that if you didn't play it before or are interested in a game off the beaten path, I think this might do it for you.
Yeah, it's definitely worth checking out. I got Xenoblade Chronicles remastered right now. I'm trying to get through on the Switch, but maybe I'll throw Crysis on my list next.
What are your thoughts out there on the remasters of Crysis and Destroy All Humans? Share us your thoughts, popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Also as well, Pop Culture Cosmos, Humanity Media, and Game Source on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram as well. And please, you can also go ahead and check us out on TikTok, Pop Culture Cosmos, or send us out those Facebook gaming stars, because we would truly appreciate any support you might give us right here at the Pop Culture Cosmos.
You're listening to the Pop Culture Cosmos. Don't touch that dial. Wait, do people still use dials? Coming soon, Zero Cool Films presents Action Figure Adventure. Super collector Jay Bartlett hits the road once again in search of action figures' most iconic and noteworthy and rare figures, all in the name of creating the most ultimate action figure auction ever. He fronts the cash that charity benefits in the end. What will he get? How will he get it? And how well will he do? Find out November 1st, 2020.
Well, my friend, there's more to talk about on today's program, including Emmy nominations coming up and a Witcher prequel. And also, we want you out there to adopt me. But first, Crosscode and Sister Royale. I'm playing Sister Royale right now on the Xbox One. It's out everywhere on all the major systems. It is as I said on the Monday show, I'm telling you, my friend, this is a fun game. Reminds me a lot of Time Pilot 1942 from the old days and retro days. Yes, I know I'm dating myself. But with a very JRPG-ish type look. Maybe not necessarily feel, but the storyline is there's really not much of a story as far as your group of that's trying to save the island and from the big bad bosses and whatnot. It's all a tech story, so really that you're not really getting much into that. But the gameplay, where you can have so much coming down at you on screen as far as the fire, the just whatever the bosses are sending out at you, or the other bad forces in the game, just what they're throwing out at you. My gosh, left, right, you have to go ahead and maneuver. You're always looking to maneuver. But I don't know if you remember the games like that, those top-down shooters that you could go ahead at the arcade. The only thing is with this game, because the screen itself for the actual gameplay only takes up about 55% of the screen. The rest is set by sidebars for either a character or for your score, which can go into the billions and billions of points, that part is really cool, and I love that. And it's such a fast action game. But I'll tell you what, the power-ups, just the gunfire, just the gunplay, the power-ups again, and just that you get, and the things that you could do to go ahead, and the frantic action, it really is a fun game. I highly recommend it. I bet it's a blast on the Switch. I'm playing on the Xbox One, and I just have a great recommendation for this game, the Sisters Royale. It's much, when I gave this the choice as far as which games to play, and I thought, I'm getting this game, Sisters Royale. Then I played it, and I was pleasantly surprised.
So what is the gameplay like? Is it?
It's top down, it's top down. You
yeah, I know it's top down. Is it is the gameplay smooth? Is it feel clunky?
No, it feels clunky, but the whole screen can line up or can be filled by firefight, and all these little fireballs or weapons or anything else come all at you, and there might be just a little crack for you to go ahead and find in the screen that you have to be at in order to go ahead and live and survive, while simultaneously trying to shoot back with your array of artillery back at the various bosses or bad guys that are up on the the top of the screen and whatnot. And it is very frantic because, again, you got to also concentrate on shooting, but you also got to concentrate on not getting hit. And that type of degree of difficulty, it's challenging, but it's fun all in the same time. And again, it has that 1942 Time Pilot type feel for me, so it brings back a lot of great memories as well.
So okay, all right. So I mean, is it? I don't know. I saw some trailers for it. It looks a little chaotic. Is it easy to follow while things are on the screen?
Yeah, it's for the most part it is, but it does get a little bit with so many things on at the same time. As far as artillery, it does get a little bit hard to see. I'm going to tell you that right now, but I think that's part of the challenge that you need to realize is that you need to be in a whole half to lower part of the screen filled with enemy fire that is intent on killing you. You've got to find that small little niche that's there that you could go ahead and find in order to go ahead and just narrow your way through in order to go ahead and survive and be able to go ahead and retaliate against these bosses and the bad guys. So the screen can be filled up with enemy fire, and it's just, it's really a very, very challenging game, and I enjoyed it. I've enjoyed it so far.
Okay, all right. Is there a story to it, or is it?
There's supposed to be a story attached to it. Like I said, you're one of a group of individuals sent out to an island to go ahead and rid the evil that's there and the evil forces that are there. But it's basically text-based, similar to what you would see in a JRPG. And in doing so, that's neither here nor there. Again, you're not really worried about that because you're spending so much time trying to survive that those little moments that they try to go ahead and introduce a story to or expand upon it really just is a whole bunch of text that you're just going ahead and trying to recover for the next wave and level of bombardment that's coming upon you.
Okay, all right. I mean, what kind of gamers would you recommend it to?
Basically, if you're into arcade style games. If you're into shooters, it's not going to be something that you're going to stay with for a long time. But basically, for a fun couple nights, it's going to be a game that I think you want to go ahead and play because it is a challenge. And it's always something that I think would be best suited, if I'm going to say this correctly, on the Switch because it's something that you could take. It's just a cool little shooter that you can go ahead and play through on a car ride or something like that that'll really get you going. It also serves as well on the console, but I think as a portable game, it's going to be a little bit harder to see, but again, it makes for a great time if you can go ahead and play it because it's just so much happening on the screen at once.
All right, right on. So it's available on Switch
and consoles, and PC,
consoles. And PC. Okay.
So, and then I know you were playing Crosscode. Do you have some initial impressions of that game?
So yeah, Crosscode it's a top-down, kind of like Legend of Zelda or Octopath Traveler. If you played that one, it has the combat's very smooth. I love that you don't have to go to like a separate. It kind of, it has a Children of Morta vibe to it, but like you don't have to go to a separate battle screen to fight, and I think that's really cool. The story, of course, like all MMORPGs, not MMO, but RPGs, JRPGs, revolves around somebody with amnesia. She goes and she plays the Crossworlds game. It's a fictional game within that universe, and she's trying to like get her memory back. And you're basically going through. You have town. You stop in towns. There's little dungeons and stuff like that. So it has like a fantasy star vibe to it, just in the way the dialogue boxes appear on the corners. I do love the colors. I love the combats. It's challenging, but it's very smooth. It flows very well, and so it is. It kind of plays like a Super Nintendo game. The soundtrack's like a typical JRPG soundtrack, so a lot of people will be really into that. I think they did a good job of bringing back like a lost era of gaming in this game. And it does have a leveling system. You do get to upgrade equipment. Like there's a lot packed into this little game. And I think that they did a very good job with that. And I can't wait to finish playing it. And, I'll have a deeper review come up, later on as either a PCC one shot or just part of the Pop Culture Cosmos show. But I am digging it so far.
Well, that's good. That's awesome to hear. I think a lot of good words are coming from us in regards to Crosscode and Sister Royale. If you want to check it out, they are available on consoles, and you want to go ahead and check out what they're doing, go ahead, and we're going to have some, hopefully, streams coming up in the near future for both of these games. But also, if you can, just check out these games, whether on Steam, whether on consoles, or wherever you get your video games. Crosscode and Sister Royale, truly, truly cool games to play.
If you need your video game fix, be sure to check out Retro City Games. Located in Town Square on Las Vegas Boulevard or in Henderson, Nevada, Retro City Games has the cure for all your video game vices. Retro games and games for current consoles, Nintendo, Sega, PlayStation, Xbox, and more. Retro City Games has all the staples from any library and some highly collectible offerings too. So pick up a few games today at Retro City Games in Town Square on Las Vegas Boulevard or in Henderson, Nevada. Retro City Games is your video game metropolis.
My friend, there's more to talk about on today's show before we head on out. Emmy nominations, my friend. Emmy nominations are here. They're live. And I want to give you just a countdown of some of the big winners this past week as far as the nominations are concerned. Watchmen, 26 nominations. The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, 20 nominations. This is from Variety, by the way. Ozark, 18. Succession, 18. The Mandalorian, 15. Saturday Night Live, 15. Schitt's Creek, that's SCHITT for anyone out there. Schitt's Creek, 15. The Crown, 13. Hollywood, 12. And Westworld, which is normally a big nominee type show, that only got 11.
It lost what it set out to be. And then they said Dolores is trying to destroy the human race, but she was trying to save the human race. There's a lot of confusion within the show. The show looks beautiful, but there's so much, so much confusion inside of it. I didn't understand this season.
I mean, I really liked season 1 until the end. Well, I think the last episode for me fell flat. Season 2 was all over the place. Season 3 is all over the place. So, again, for something that's all over the place, I'm not sure how much I'm going to stick with it because I don't know what to expect. And everything I can see on there is not everything I'm going to like. So, you got to have patience when you're watching series like these. Problem is, I don't know how much more patience with all the other good stuff out there because we'll see The Boys. And we saw every episode of The Boys, and we like that.
Right.
Umbrella Academy, there's other great shows out there that we watch that we like almost all the episodes. So that's that.
Yeah.
With so much to watch out there now on regular TV, cable TV, and streaming TV, plus the movies, plus video games, plus everything else that we're doing. You have to limit your time on what you're watching, and it has to be something that you feel, or going into it, you think it's going to be a quality watch, and that's not always the case with shows like Westworld. That's just, again, all over the place. But again, 11 nominations, you can't argue with that. Netflix reigning supreme with 160 nominations. HBO's no slouch with over 100, and obviously the top getting nominated show in The Watchmen, which is truly an incredible watch, and people need to see that. Tiger King did get a few nominations. I still just bewilders me on that. But again, if you want to go ahead and check it out, it's on Variety as far as which shows got nominated. If you're looking for a specific one, we share the articles on our Facebook page, Pop Culture Cosmos. What are your thoughts on the Emmy nominations? Did you like all the Emmy nominations that were there? Did you think there were some snubs? Were you surprised on a few? We want to hear your thoughts. popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Before we head on out, my friend, The Walking Dead, I kind of held that back from making that part of the announcements at San Diego Comic-Con this past weekend, but they did announce that they were extending the episodes for Season 10 and delaying Season 11. I think they're adding 6 more episodes, and they're having their quote-unquote Season 10 finale, which is no longer the Season 10 finale, coming up in October. Fear the Walking Dead, that's coming around also in October for more episodes in its next season. And if they kill off Morgan, I'm just going to tell everyone out there, I'm tuning out of the show forever. Don't kill Morgan. The newest show, that's coming out, I believe, in 2021 as well. So, I mean, there's still a lot to talk about when it comes to The Walking Dead. As you're seeing right now, I've got on Vital Thrills, and they're going ahead and showing you exactly what's going on with this article in regards to the updates from Fear the Walking Dead, and whatnot. The newest show, The Walking Dead World Beyond, that's going to be coming out at a later point in time in 2021, but it's now more solidified. I want to hear your thoughts. You're not as big a fan as you once were of The Walking Dead. Do you ever see yourself going back?
Honestly, I do not. I'm so far over the zombie, anything having to do with zombies. I am, yeah, and like I do still love like my video games. Yeah,
give me that zombie in the background.
I do still love my video games, you know, with zombies in them. Those are fun, but I just like the whole like Walking Dead, Dawn of the Dead. I'm over it. You know, I wish I wasn't. I wish that wasn't the case, but I've had enough, man. Like I know that Walking Dead still has a cult following. I really did love the comic books for a while, but it's not a world that I am very interested in going back into. You know, especially like after all the debates I've had with people over it. I don't want to get involved in it again. But what about you, though? Is it something that you'd want to go back to?
I told you about Fear the Walking Dead. Fear the Walking Dead has been a miserable failure for the most part in the lives of a lot of TWD fans. I thought it's been okay. That's had its moments. It's going to not have any more moments for me if Morgan is killed off, because that was his perilous fate, that it looked like he was at a near-death position at the end of the last season. And Morgan's been someone who has crossed over from the original Walking Dead series to Fear the Walking Dead. And he is truly a great actor, and if anything happens to Morgan on that, to me, he carries the show at this point in time. He gave it a bit of life when he came over there, and I certainly hope that he's not going to go ahead and bow out. With the rest of The Walking Dead, I don't know. It's all over the map for me. I mean, it kind of gained some interest with the recent conflict that they had. I don't know where it's going to go from here. It really looks like it's something that is going to be okay for the rest of its run. It's not going to be running much longer. I see maybe 2-3 more seasons out of it, because at some point in time it's going to have to end. The comic book series end. So we're going to have to wait and see. The World Beyond does not interest me in the slightest. And if Daphne was here, I'd tell her that straight up. That's a hard sell for me at this point in time, because I think The Walking Dead, I think there was better ways to go to create a series. I'd love to see them try to create a cure for it, but nobody seems to be interested on that show, or Robert Kirkman, when he was creating the comic book series, is interested in going after a cure, coming up with a cure for it. That would have been a great way to cap off the series, but that doesn't seem to be the case.
That was a big plot point, though, is the fact that there wasn't a cure. You know, like when you die, you become one regardless of whether or not you meant to become one, you know. Yeah. And it's like that. I think that was a big plot point for them, but then they played it out. They played it until literally nobody cared about it anymore. And I think that was something that shouldn't have happened. You know, maybe, yeah, I think it would have been cool to say like, well, that's not necessarily true. Maybe there is something out there that can cure people. And that could have added a whole nother element of the show. Like, hey, maybe somebody in the party becomes a zombie. That would have been a good story arc. But yeah,
or their forces, because there are a lot of forces now that came to power that would have never been power in real life. So they may try to stop the people who are trying to find a cure.
Well, I mean, even something from like a 28 Days Later perspective, like, yeah, they eventually will starve. And, in that's the one thing I don't like about The Walking Dead, is that these things aren't metabolizing. You don't. They're just hungry all the time. Like, why do they feed? There's no logic behind any of it. Like, that's what I really loved about, 28 Days Later and World War Z. Like, there was science behind it, but this is just like zombies for the sake of zombies, and it's played out.
One last thing on the TWE, kind of related to it. Robert Kirkman is creating a series based off, I guess, more comic books of his in the world of superheroes, or kind of. And it's going to have a similar vibe or theme as what we're seeing from The Boys, Umbrella Academy, and Doom Patrol. So I want to hear your thoughts. I forget what it's called off the top of my head, but Robert Kirkman's new series that he's developing, a lot of big name actors are going to be involved as far as doing voiceovers for it. Have you heard of it? Are you interested in it? So let me
Is that the one? I saw a picture with Joseph Gordon-Levitt. Is he one of the people that are in that show?
I think so, yes. So, yes.
Okay. I mean, hey, it could be good. We're in a world where there's pretty much the superhero. I think the superhero genre will stay alive because there's literally nothing else to watch. Even I got really into Ragnarok on Netflix, and like that is more of a superhero show than it is a
Invincible. Invincible it's called.
Invincible, yeah. So I mean, hey, it's possible. I know there's been a lot. Remember, Sony had their PlayStation exclusive shows for a while. Remember what was it called? Powers, I think. And
I like that show.
Like I mean, it wasn't bad, but I mean, there's just been a lot of things that have launched regarding superhero narratives, and they have crashed and burned, if not critically, then financially. So I don't know. We'll see what happens.
But now it's on a high because you've got, like I said, Doom Patrol, Umbrella Academy, and The Boys, which are all seeing massive returns.
Yeah, but you have to look at it this way. Like, there is a risk in creating a fresh superhero property. I think what like The Boys and Umbrella Academy and Doom Patrol and stuff like that, what they have going for them is they already have a following. They're already based on existing properties. So I think that's kind of working in their favor. But let's hope. Maybe maybe the genre does need something fresh. So that would be cool.
What do you think out there about Invincible, Robert Kirkman's new series, and also The Walking Dead and the latest updates that they gave? Share us your thoughts, popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Are you interested in seeing any more of The Walking Dead, whether it's the new Walking Dead series, The World Beyond, Fear the Walking Dead, or the episodes that have been added on for Season 10 and Season 11 that's being pushed back to even later in 2021? I want to hear your thoughts, popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Two more last things, my friend, before we head on out on this episode of the PCC Multiverse, and that is The Witcher prequel, Blood Origin. Not surprising, The Witcher was a big hit on Netflix. I mean, are you looking forward to a prequel for The Witcher?
Yeah, I could be down with that. I was thinking about that yesterday. It is something. Yeah, I really like that world. I love swords. What they call it? Sword and sorcery. Like, I love that genre of storytelling, and I would be down for it. I mean, just from watching the show, you don't get a sense of like exactly how rich that world is, but anyone who has played the games or read the books like really knows there's a lot of deep mythology behind that and a lot of lore. And yeah, I think it's a great idea for them to explore it. My one hope would be that we don't have these shows running side by side, because I feel like there'd be just too much to watch at that point. Like if they said, hey, The Witcher, they waited 6 months, 3 to 6 months to release the show after a season of The Witcher, that would be fine. That way we don't have much of a lapse in Witcher content. But I don't know, like I am interested in seeing it, but I can also see it where it'd be a risky move to kind of oversaturate the marketplace with the Witcher stuff.
There you go. What are your thoughts out there on a Witcher prequel called Blood Origin coming in 2021? Share us your thoughts, popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Well, it's been a great episode, my friend. Before we head on out, though, AdoptMe, one of the best, or actually most popular games within a game. Because the world of Roblox, you can create your own games and whatnot, and one of the games that a studio within the realm of Roblox, which is one of the biggest games, if not the biggest games out there, with over 150 million concurrent users, users each month, with 150 million users each month that are out there playing Roblox, including my daughter. I want to ask you this. AdoptMe is a game within this game that has about a third of that, with 50 million. They're ramping up their studio, and this is something that could branch out on its own very, very soon. Rumors that, there's fears that, or it could stay within the world of Roblox, and it's still going to do great. This is something that we've seen from Minecraft a little bit, but not to this extent. I want to hear your thoughts on AdoptMe, which actually adopts a lot of the traits from The Sims. If you remember the Pets games from the Nintendo DS that were a big seller each and every time out, has a lot of that feel, But again, whether it's a person or a pet or anything like that, in that realm where you're helping things grow, you've got to take care of things and things of that nature, AdoptMe is really fitting into a nice niche, and it could be really something that a lot of people could get into, especially younger audiences, because that's who really this is geared towards to.
I mean, is this like a Gigapet or Digimon? Like, is this...
In some ways, yeah. I mean, it's more than that. It's evolving to that. I mean, there's a ton of YouTube videos out there that I've gotten a chance to see as far as all the different variations that you can go ahead. And as my daughter was telling me, and it's great you have to have these conversations on a level she really likes to go ahead and express herself on, because she's 12. And she was able to go ahead and talk all about AdoptMe, and she's like, it wasn't for me. But then they added pets into it, and it was still like, oh wow, really, that's something, because it's grown to this sub genre within the game. Because you have this hugely massive hit, this big massive hit in Roblox, and then beyond that, you have a game within a game that's making its own niche with its own different style and feel. So I want to hear your thoughts, man. I mean, just when you have something this large and you have something this cute, I mean, this is something where it could be getting a lot of people. I mean, we've seen it before. We've seen it before with these childish games that I know you, like you were saying, when you were at Best Buy and you were selling these games off and you weren't really sure why these people. But then again, that's what happens. You have a younger audience that has latched onto something that could lead to more interesting games for them in the future.
Yeah, I mean, I think anything that leads the younger generation to games is a good thing. But how soon until they outgrow them, right? Like, look at how, I don't know many adults who loved Pokemon Blue and Red growing up that bought Pokemon Sword and Shield. It's like it's how soon until you outgrow them, and like it is a risky market. But yeah, no, I mean, I think it's a good idea. I don't know enough about it to really have an honest opinion on it. Like, I think that if it's something that's getting kids into gaming, then cool. Yeah, if it works, it works. But, I also don't, is it going to create a new fad in gaming where everyone's creating stuff like that? It's a interesting thing. I'll have to do a little more research on it.
You and I both, my friend, because my kid had okay things to say about it, but there's a lot of people getting into it. She's a huge Roblox fan, and I know a lot of other people are as well. So people thought, oh, they're just passing it off as Roblox as a key game, or AdoptMe, that's just a key game. Well, again, you're talking about 50 and 150 million users a month, respectively, for those games. That's nothing to sneeze at, and being one of the world's most popular games, and having a game within the game that's getting its own amount that a lot of developers and game makers would be envious of. You know what? That's a very impressive feat. There is. That's a truly impressive feat they're in. What are your thoughts out there on AdoptMe? Do you have a child, or are you playing it at all? I mean, are you really into it? We want to know. What are the kind of things that you're really into when you're just going ahead and within the world of AdoptMe, within the world of Roblox? Share us your thoughts, popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. My friend, it's been a great episode. But before we head on out, I want to give everybody a high sign that we're going to be having the finality. Saved it for its own special episode of the top 20 movies. Well, we already gave number 20 away before previously, but mostly the top 20 movies of our Pop Culture Cosmos top 100-ish movie countdown. That's coming up on the Monday show. Looking forward to it. Any last thoughts on the way out?
No, I think we covered everything.
All right.
It's been fun.
It's been fun indeed. So for Josh Peterson, this is Gerald Glasser. It's another beautiful day in paradise right here in the PCC Multiverse. Thank you for listening. And here's hoping you have yourself a great day.